I'm trying to think of a funny line from Pitch Black to throw at you, but there aren't a lot of them.
Not for me!
Nice.
Sorry.
7 years of college. Down the drain.
Now you're just reading my shirt.
Yeah, you're goddamn right.
Anyways, party people, TBD-ites.
Yup.
We're coming at you with another edition, kind of a crazy, kooky edition. I gave Patrick Animal House to watch because he'd never seen it, and Patrick gave me Pitch Black to watch because I'd never seen Pitch Black.
Yeah, and I'm trying to save him from hell.
So, yeah, we're deviating a bit from standard norms. We, of course, had a plan, and that plan hit the fan.
Oh, completely fell through because my 100% legal, DVD collection that was on my computer is not accessible.
Right.
So we were going to do a tribute to a great, late, recently deceased actor. That's still going to happen, so I'm not going to spoil who it was, but yeah, instead we did this crazy, whacked out madness, and I think it, I rather liked it.
Oh, I definitely grew as a person.
So, starting into this, I thought it was funny that we've made the joke in the past that I primarily watch dramatic films and you primarily watch comedic films. Because in this first outing, I gave you very much a dramatic film and you gave me very much a comedic film. And I have to say, at least on my end, I really enjoyed myself. And I went into it with a lot of skepticism, specifically because I'm not big on college movies. As you know, I'm not big on high school movies. I'm not big on college movies. I, truly deplore Greek life. But it was such a glorious skewering of Greek life that was so beautifully done. And none of the people who behaved in any way a morally repugnant way in the film are portrayed in any kind of positive light.
I don't know. I really love Bluto, but he's that bastard that is a bastard, but he's a lovable bastard.
Well, and is not depicted as being
good.
Yeah, and everyone accepts what he is, which is this kind of freewheeling, completely incapable ball of psychosis.
When the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor. He's on
Was
a roll.
it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? He's on a roll. Just let him go. Bluto's right. Psychotic, but he's right. No, and I feel like there's a small chance that perhaps the entire film was just a setup for the Senator and Mrs. Blutarsky joke at the very end, because I was like, all right, what's it gonna be? What's his final fate? Yes, oh my god, yes, absolutely dead on. But no, I very much enjoyed it, and it was also fun for me watching John Belushi do an almost silent role. Bluto does not speak. There's that fantastic scene where he's trying to console Flounder, and he is physically incapable of giving anything deeper than slapstick self-harm humor. Yeah. And he's desperately, he wants to be there for his friend, and physically cannot be there in any meaningful way because he does not understand how. Such a glorious depiction of that character. And of course, I love me my John Belushi.
Oh, yeah. And that's, largely why I was like, okay, you're somebody who has this great love for the Blues Brothers, who likes John Belushi. You need to see this piece of the pie, because I know it's a piece of the pie that you're missing. And, that far and away, it's classic comedy. It's something that kind of infused, jump-started, brought the whole teen or college comedy into the mainstream, which is an absolutely fucking stupid genre. Yeah. I'm not going to stand up for it at all, but it's one that, even though I know it's fucking stupid, I still enjoy on some level.
Yeah.
So from those different, reasons, it was something that I thought you should really see. And it was funny because I was rewatching it for this, and I was like, you know what? Bluto is also every bit a character that Patrick can get behind, because there's a lot of Carl in him.
Yes.
And I know you absolutely love Carl, and I was like, I don't quite know that Bluto's going to become one of Patrick's spirit animals, but it's definitely like Carl-esque character.
Yes, someone who is so disinterested in, who is so separated from the rest of humanity by their misanthropy that they are their own special, strange creature. And glorious. You make a really good point there. I hadn't thought of the Carl connection, but, I mean, the cafeteria scene.
Oh,
the fucking cafeteria scene with the, don't you have any respect for yourself? And he just stares. And then does the fucking zip joke, which is his, like, second line in the whole film. And you're just
hey,
like,
what am I? I'm a zit!
Get it? It's so fucking good. And I wish the whiskey that he chugged in the one scene had been real. And it's like very clearly not real whiskey at that point. And I'm like, I get that. Like, you didn't actually have
a prop booze. And like, it's one of those things that like, if somebody was going to be able to do it, I would believe John Belushi just being able to chug a bottle of whiskey in one sitting.
He'd do it, and then he probably would have thrown up violently afterwards because the man was on speedballs. But like,
well, you also just fucking chugged a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not good for your body any way you cut it.
No. But Belushi also strikes me as the kind of guy who would who was probably down to do real booze, and they were like, no, John, no.
Especially like whenever you're doing a take for a movie, there's going to be multiple takes in it. So whenever you're doing something like that like completely fucks up your body, I realize this is a non sequitur, but Dante from Grandma's Boy smoked real weed. And, like, they were saying, a couple takes in, he was just fucking gone.
Yeah.
And, like, that added so much to that movie in terms of who Dante was as a character, because he is that character. He's fucking gone.
He's actually that
But,
high.
like, literally having to do that for every take, just insane.
It would be nuts. And it's funny you bring that up, because specifically, the scene where they're smoking weed with the professor, they are smoking real pot. Like, the way the joint burned, the way the smoke clouds were. Now, I'm not going to say that I personally have extensive experience here. I mean, not in any kind of public forum like this. I would never even imply that I might have spent such time with such substances. But in my study, my third-person study of, that subculture, that was definitively a real joint they were smoking. Which was funny to me because I'm like, Donald Sutherland is very clearly really high in like two of the scenes leading up to this. And then they had the scene of them smoking, and I was like, yes.
You know what would have been funny too, because totally could have been filmed out of order if they did that first to get him like naturally into like whatever else was going on.
And that's very possible as well. I could very much see that. Because Donald Sutherland was around at a time where there was a lot of drugs on movie sets. And I can't imagine that Donald didn't dive direct in.
Partake. Yeah. But,
motherfucker was in MASH.
I think it's interesting that you keep up this farce, Patrick, since we all know about your book, Getting High with Karen Allen, the Patrick Humphrey story.
Hey, okay. What may or may not have been written as an unauthorized autobiography by someone who may or may not have stolen both my face and name. I don't think I can really comment on it here. There is an ongoing lawsuit against this fraudulent me, which is, of course, why I currently look like Nicolas Cage. But,
accurate. I can verify that, sitting across from the man.
Yeah, of course. No, the elegant sweep of the nose, the elegant sweep of the jaw, the elegant sweep of his forehead, the elegant sweep of his receding hairline, all of it.
Speaking of elegance and the reason that people have come to look the way that they are, I like to think that headcanon for Kevin Bacon looking the way that he is now is because he just got plowed over by the fucking crowd.
100% plausible. That's why he looks like he's been dragged out the back of a truck. Like, and the second that I saw him, I was like, no, it was young Kevin Bacon. I wound it back. I was sitting in my living room, all the roommates have lined up and are watching the movie, and I stopped and wound it back, and I was like, son of a bitch, that's Kevin Bacon. And it's I kept seeing all these actors in there that I'm like, no, fucking cool.
To that point, the sergeant instructor dude, Mark Metcalf, is the same dude that's done the intro for the Twisted Sister videos. which I absolutely fucking love those. I think he was in, like,
Wow.
another thing as, like, a sergeant, too, and they just kind of, like, carried that over.
Nice.
But, like, I like the film, and I love Twisted Sister, and, like, having both of those, intersect is just, like, yes! Things that I love, they're coming together.
And, what's his name? Shern Watzer, the fucking Playboy, Mr. Slick. The guy who makes every speech check in the entire movie. The guy gets
Otter's
beat up
the
in
nickname,
yeah, Otter. I can't remember his real name, but yeah, Otter. Is played by the same actor who plays, like, my favorite recurring character on Burn Notice, who I've ranted about a whole bunch. Larry the Undead Spy, a.k.a. Larry the Spy with 9 lives, a.k.a. Larry the Vengeful Ghost. I love that character, and it took me, like, halfway through the movie to be like, God, it's Larry! Oh my God, it's Larry the Undead Spy! And he's just doing such a beautiful fucking job. And, you know, if he didn't go on to be a gynecologist.
Right.
You know,
his true calling.
In Beverly Hills, California. You know, I could entirely see him one day becoming Larry, the Undead Spy. It was funny, I didn't realize that they were specifically placing it in the 60s, but that made the cars make a whole lot more sense when they finally got to the end, and it was like, yeah, class of 63. So, like, the threat about Vietnam made a hell of a lot more sense, too, because I was like...
It's not really explicitly stated. There's a couple things peppered throughout. Like, there's one that has some pin or, like, some badge or something on it that says 1962. Like, nice. there are little things that are peppered throughout. But, yeah, it also makes a lot more sense when you think about other interactions. Like, you have the whole float with the two holding hands. That's the whole, you know, African-American and white American coming together. There's the whole interaction at the bar when they go and they see Otis and they go into a very clearly all-black bar, and it's like, okay, this is pre-desegregation. There are a lot of hostile emotions now. I mean,
and I think very, very validly. Because it's again like, it's like, you're shitting me. The drunk college kids followed Otis here. And again, like, I liked the fact that they had the whole thing where there's the great time where Otis is playing at their fucking show or is playing at their party and everything else. And they do have a grand time. It's like a really fun show. But he's also like, don't follow me to, like, my community, basically. And like, wow. There's like that whole awkwardness of him just being like, I don't know you.
Right.
I don't know you.
Well, I mean, it's also like... very clearly that specific bar, like, even if he was still cool with them, there's that, I don't want to say Black Panther vibe, but there was definitely African Americans who are very proud of being African American and have ill intent towards lighter skinned folks, people with melanin deficiencies.
Yeah, well, no, and I mean, especially, in 63, you're looking at a lot of people who were getting militarized because of the level of anger. And again, I think it was a very valid thing. But yeah, in 1963, as a bunch of, like, drunk, white, like, upper middle class college students, you didn't, like, bust into a random, like, black, like, dive bar and act like you know everybody and it's cool. Like, yeah, you're gonna get your ass beat.
Just the scene when the dude's like, oh, I'll take care of this, and he goes up to the bar and he starts ordering drinks, and the guy next to him just like flicks out the switchblade
and is like about to say a word to try and like ease the tension, and it's just the switchblade, and doesn't look at him. Like, I love that. And the like slowly accumulating crowd around the table. I think my one issue with it is it's again simply because of date. Mm-hmm. There's those little moments in it where I'm like, oh God, you did that because it was a different time, and you did it because it was a different time. And there's a couple of things specifically with the women in the piece, which I thought that on the whole, especially considering the era, it was very good on that front of kind of like not being like horribly misogynistic, which the film could have fallen into a trap with. And like
just Bluto on the ladder when he's like jumping the ladder down.
But again, every character who behaves in a manner like that is not, they aren't positively portrayed. Like Bluto is a shitty person, and that is like clearly understood by that point in the film. You're like, wow, this guy is an ass and has no sense of the consequences of his actions, whatever the fuck they are. Like, from the opening scene of, like, the bottle, like, him catching the bottle and the shit smashing, and he just doesn't, there's no understanding of consequences. And, that and the, like, the Negroes stole our dates were, like, the two things where I was like, oh my lord. All right, remember the time at which this was released. And it made even more sense when I realized that it was 63. Because that is all 100% shit that is realistic from that,
it is
like, time period.
Kind of weird, too, considering, like, it is, you know, it's one of the first teen college comedy movies. Yeah. And at the same time, it's also a period piece.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it in terms of, like, that dichotomy and, like, the credence at which they were willing to go for it and not just making it about the comedy.
No, they did go all the way with that. And were, you know, over the top in the way they did it, as National Lampoons are wont to do. And the film as a whole was, I thought, again, a beautiful usage of the college genre, which, again, I think is something that I dislike because of the fact that it generally is shallow and somewhat excusing of shitty behavior, like really, really shitty things that people do, and also being like, there's just never really any stakes. I'm always like, well, great job. You guys party too hard,
so you're gonna get
paying
kicked
the
out
consequences
for partying too hard, which is every bit like none of you have a GPA over 2. Like,
yeah, like you got kicked out for partying too hard. I have no fucking sympathy for you on this front. But this film did not ask you to weep for them at any point. It was just a wonderful little, like, panorama shot of this beautiful train wreck in motion. And I loved that. I thought that was fantastic. And I love that you mentioned that it's one of the first ones of that genre, because I feel like that was a part of it, was that it's like, other ones have been trying to do the same thing with the genre by intensifying it and intensifying it and intensifying the idea. And that was so perfect because it was light and all of these kind of, like, emblematic characters and set pieces. It wasn't trying to go deeper under the surface other than making it really a period piece, like, about the time, and being the comedy. So, like, you had, like, those two axes and the rest of it simply served those two purposes. That crossing point.
Yeah. And yeah, I do think a lot of films have been trying to do that sense or call back to it. I mean, you definitely have some of that echo in, you know, shit like An American Pie or Road Trip or some shit like that. They are trying to pull from elements because the other thing, too, about fucking this film and John Belushi is how, specifically in American comedy, he's been a mainstay that's been somebody who's been looked up to and emulated.
Yeah.
And
for generations of comedy.
Just how that's affected comedians and comedies going forward.
No, 100% agreement. 100% agreement. You can track the influence that this film had on comedy. And again, a part of why I'm really glad I watched it. Other than the fact that I also just really fucking enjoyed it. Well, like, I don't laugh out loud much at comedies, and it got me a couple of moments. There were a couple of moments where it entirely got me.
I also have to say, I think it's interesting, too, because you take National Lampoon from this point, like this and, like, the first Vacation movie, and they're both pretty solid, at least in my opinion, and how they've been diluted over the period of time, because they literally just keep trying to make the same movies over and over again. So they went from being this point of, like, gold to, like, shit.
Well, and it originally started with Harold Ramis as one of the main guys working on it. He worked on fucking Animal House. He worked on the first one, Vacation. I believe he worked on Christmas, which I saw, which was, I thought, also very, very solid. And I think those are the only... I haven't seen Vacation. So the only two National Lampoons that I've seen now are Animal House and Christmas. But it's... I think... Yeah, I don't know. I would definitely agree with you, because anytime that you have an idea, and especially like a group of people working on something, and they start churning out more and more and more, it's the Wayans brothers problem. Where, like, you look at the early Wayans brothers films, and they're fucking on point. Like, they're really funny, they're well done. It was the same humor style being used later, but it became drier, not drier in terms of comedy, but in terms of being less juicy. Like, it became more and more like eating sand, because it didn't have the heart behind it. It was just them trying to mass produce.
Well, and I think to that point specifically, it was also like offshoots of stuff that they were doing with In Living Color. And I absolutely loved In Living Color.
Yeah.
But that's so far beyond.
Okay, yeah, no, okay, that's another podcast we gotta go to.
That would be an interesting one, just doing like the like more modern sketch comedy shows as like a grouping thing.
Yeah, do like 90s sketch comedy shows.
Only 90s sketch comedy.
Well, no, I mean, we could do 90s and early aughts. All right, motherfucker. All right, let's do this.
No. Don't worry about it. It just referenced the stupid only 90s gamers.
Oh, like only 90s kids will understand. Yeah. Only 80s kids will understand.
Yeah,
only
I fucking
1420s kids will understand how bad it was under Oliver Cromwell. Like, fuck you.
And denounce this royal line that still salutes him and will salute him forever.
Oliver Cromwell, the only man with any guts in British history. 5 foot. Very tall at all. 5'3".
But I do also have to say, just from a personal standpoint, I owned this shirt before I ever saw the movie. I'm wearing the Bluto quote that Patrick literally just...
Yeah, 7 years of college down the drain, Bluto Animal House. Like, literally,
Like, I owned this shirt before I ever saw the movie, simply because I saw it a story. I was like, you know what? I'm so disenfranchised with college life and going to PCC, even though it's community college, not...
It's still a college.
But, like, I was just like...
frats.
I'm very much...
That scared me.
That is horrifying.
Yeah.
I very much, like, felt like, you know what, fuck it. And, like, this shirt, like, was an emblem of where I was at with life and my reaction to scholastics.
Yeah.
So then, you know, knowing about the movie Animal House and having this love of John Belushi, and obviously having seen, you know, other things that he's done. You know, obviously, I mentioned it earlier, Blues Brothers, SNL. But going into Animal House the first time, I enjoyed it, but I was actually kind of disappointed because I think I'd built it up too far in my mind. But every subsequent viewing I've had of it has been fucking fantastic. So I'm glad that you started off from that point of like, all right, I can get behind this, because it's definitely something that I think could have been overblown, because it was overblown to me.
Well, and it would have been overblown except for the fact that I really dislike college films. So I went into it with like zero expectations.
I'm gonna fucking hate it.
Not that, but it was more like, I don't like this kind of genre of film, so anything that I find that's good here is going to be a victory. And I actually liked, like, 95% of the film, and I was like, wow, booyah, this is fucking genius, getting to watch John Belushi do John Belushi's thing. So, since we've been discussing this, I've got to ask, what was your reaction to Pitch Black?
I think if you dissect it in terms of different parts, there are parts that are really good and parts that are bad.
Yes, I would agree with that.
The first 50 or 60 minutes of the film, there were parts that I really liked and parts that I thought were badly written and stupid. The next 30 to 40 minutes, I absolutely fucking loved. Like, whatever you want to say about the first part.
Once the sun starts going down?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah.
That, even a little bit before that, like when they first discover the old, like, geology town, mining town, whatever it is.
As soon as that point hits.
Like, stuff starts to build. There's more intrigue. There's more world elements being brought in, and you kind of get a feel for what's going on. So that part I loved. And the last, like, 2-3 minutes, I was like, really? Like, you guys had all the stuff building, and it goes fucking there with it?
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was a little bit flat. Like, the very end, I was just like, why? Why? Like, I don't want to put my fist through my computer screen.
No, I get you, but the way they take out the female lead at the end was really, really frustrating.
Yeah.
And on earlier watch-throughs, it didn't bug me as much, but this one in particular, because, like, I rewatched it because I wanted to make sure it was fresh. It's been a couple of years. Mm-hmm. This watch through it was obnoxious to me because I was like, well, I get they've made the point in earlier action sequences that if you're not careful to continually keep the lights swiveling, they'll figure out what angle they can come at you and they'll do like quick grabs and pull you off. But there's also no reason in the world why Riddick couldn't have, at that point, then tried to get her back.
That's something that pissed me off. I felt like the character actions in that final scene were not on point with what had been happening throughout. In terms of her motivation for going back for Riddick, I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But in terms of how Riddick specifically acted in that, I wasn't super on point with. Specifically when he's literally yelling at the sky. It's like, no, you weren't supposed to die for me. You were supposed to die for them. What the fuck? Like,
no,
I was like...
That doesn't make any sense in the way that he said it. Like, if he literally done it like not dying for you, dying for them. Like, if it had literally been like that, because that was the whole thing, was literally Riddick being like, I'm not going to be anybody's sucker. I'm covering my own ass first. But if you're willing to bust ass, and you actually are willing to have my back, assuredly, then I have your back. But if I can't be assured that you're going to have my back, I'm not going to fucking extend the credit.
Which was part of the whole shit early on, because Johns did very much not have his back, and was bold-faced lying to him, and you shouldn't bold-faced lie to Riddick. You get fucked.
Yeah, he will know, because his ass is listening. Which is one of my favorite parts is that of the whole opening sequence, is the fact that Riddick isn't aggro. He's very careful. He's not all animal. He's very smart, and he's very calculating, and he plays that.
Which is funny that you brought that up, the specifically dealing of animal and having Animal House as the thing that I wanted you to watch.
Yes.
And the outward expression of animal and what that means, and, you know, the vulgarity and repulsion, and having the inward animal in terms of the embodiment of Riddick, especially with that open monologue. I thought the opening monologue was a little cheesy, but I did like parts of it, and it definitely sets up for later in the film. Like the whole like animal bit when like he's like having the showdown with the creatures, I thought was like spot on.
Yeah.
And just like the echoing of like, yeah, you know, this is a fucked up scientific sci-fi creature thing that's gonna fucking kill me, but at the same time, like, it comes down to that whole like survival skill thing.
Yeah. And what Riddick is as a survivor. And that's the whole point that's made of him over the course of the film. Like,
so I think in terms of telling a story and being a film that has flaws, from a survival horror, sci-fi survival horror specifically, I think it's spot on.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's just shit early on that like there's things that I don't think are explained, and I think part of that is because they want you to have that fear of the unknown in terms of the things that they're setting up. There's the whole, you know, expansion and seeing Riddick as an enigmatic character and not really knowing what's going on with him. But in terms of following something as a movie, you kind of want to have some sort of backstory, some sort of like semblance of what's going on with these characters, who they are, and the emotions, so you actually feel for them when they get fucking axed.
Yeah.
Like,
well, because you don't really know any of the characters for a bunch of the movie, and the characters that you get to know are the ones who are around at the end. Like,
which I absolutely loved, and I think that's why I prefer the latter half of the movie, is simply because you have shit hit the fan, and then there's that interpersonal interaction. It's not about who you are, it's about who you are in the moment.
Yeah.
Type thing. And it kind of goes from telling a story to like boiling down to like the very specific like human interaction and like what you do in a crisis. And I think that's something that's very relatable, and like when it boils down to that, you get more character interaction and you feel for who they are more. That being said, I think there's still backline story stuff that I would like to have known.
Oh, hell yeah.
Especially about the fucking girl.
Yeah.
Baby Riddick.
Which was one of those things where, because Riddick's a character that was originally in comics and in, I believe, sci-fi short stories. And the film was basically like fans of those properties who like self-produced this movie. Like it was low budget. It was like, and those moments where that low budget shows are painful. But, like, I think they generally did a good job of that, but I'm sorry, I'm digressing. It was, like, fans of that who wanted to create that mysterious, like, okay, here's this character, we're setting up this world, we've put a couple of pieces on the board who are going to be, like, major players in the storyline, let's see if we'll get to expand it. And then, of course, you had Chronicles of Riddick come out, because Pitch Black did have, like, a fan following that, like, pushed it. And then Chronicles of Riddick came out, and they did fill in a bunch of that backstory, and a bunch of it was bullshit.
That's the film I haven't seen, correct?
Bugged the shit out of me. It's the second one in... It's
well,
the second Riddick film.
I know I gave you a synopsis, because you're like, oh, you should watch Pitch Black. Have you seen it? I was like, I don't know. I've seen one Riddick film, and there's a dog, and, like, there's a storm, and they're trying to recapture him, and... You know, fucking, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the third. That's got to be the third one, because the second one is the one where there's the giant army, like the Necro army.
Yeah, I definitely haven't
and
seen that.
The like ghost queen chick, and they go to the planet that's constantly like half scorching hot and half like freezing cold. Like it. So
that's interesting.
You have to stay in the neutral zone in between the two heats.
They've definitely, like, every film that they've been on, or every planet that they've been on for Riddick, as far as what I know, and obviously I don't have the full piece, is definitely playing with that whole the rotation of the planet and phases of, you know, the cycle and what that means to the world and how that affects the inhabitants of that world.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that as a through line as well. But it's part of why I like the world building that they do in there, is because these are these really weird alien environments that humans aren't really meant for, and it's like adapting to it. And it all plays off that whole Riddick as a survivor, he's an adapter. And, like...
Yeah, it was something that I thought was interesting watching the film, is generally there is the whole process of world building. And the film, as it were, it didn't really need to give you that, because it developed it gradually.
Yeah.
And... generally that's a problem with films, but I feel almost like they spent more time world building than they did character building.
Yes, I would agree.
And I think especially if you're trying, like, they're not staying on that world long term. The whole idea is to get the fuck off of it. And if you're trying to establish a franchise and trying to establish a character, I think they should have came at it from a character building perspective rather than a world building one.
And that's definitely a point, though. What I would say that I think they did a really good job of, and what they were more trying to establish, was the feel of the universe. And there's also obviously a bunch of stuff that's literally just like the cameramen wanting to do like experimental fun stuff with the film. Because again, it's the three suns, so they have all the different crazy filters and lighting throughout the whole first half of the film.
Of the gels.
See, I really dig on that, like what it does with the light and shadow and like how it plays with that. But yeah, it's obviously them playing with it.
I don't have a problem with it as a whole. I think it can be a wonderful tool for filmmaking, but I think they overused it, A, and B, because they kept switching between them, it didn't have a consistent feel.
No, but that I think was on purpose. It might not have actually made the end, and I would agree with you. It makes it rougher for that whole first section, and that whole first section of the movie is really weirdly uneven, and there's weird logical holes that don't make any sense, like why Jackass Magoo, who's digging the giant grave, runs back, sees a guy who looks nothing like Riddick, has all the time in the world to line up his distant shot to shoot the guy, and still doesn't realize it's not Riddick.
Yeah. No,
like that was butt stupid.
And like there were some minor things again. Like I had some dialogue and plot things, and some of them got resolved. Like everybody referring to Fry as the captain when she is very clearly not the captain, because they've all seen the captain die, and there's no like assuming of command thing directly, especially since everybody's basically taking orders from Johns. Doesn't make that much sense to me.
But she is the one who's actually issuing the orders for most of the film. And she's going to Johns for advice because she's in over her head. But Johns is marionetting it. So that was actually something, I can definitely understand that issue, but it is generally assumed in naval tradition, the highest ranking officer becomes the captain. Whether or not they are the captain.
See, I had a problem with it specifically because the people who were also on board the ship were not from that tradition. She never assumed the role, and everybody was assuming that she was the captain, even though they'd all seen the captain die. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. That's, yeah. Again, nitpicky, but I thought it was stupid, and like that inconsistency frustrated the hell out of me.
And they could have thrown in 3 more lines of dialogue to cover it.
And another thing with like the fucking booze. Like, everybody starts going off and drinking the booze, like, oh, there's no water, blah, 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 blah. And, like, literally they do that for, like, 10, 20 minutes. And then finally they get to fucking the whole bit with fucking Fry, and she's like, I mean, I think this is kind of dumb, because, you know, it's only going to dehydrate you even more. And I was like, okay, thank God somebody has their fucking head on.
Yeah, they actually said that shit. I love the fact, because it plays a major role. All of the intoxication, because, like, half the people are shit-faced. Mm-hmm. That's part of why people fuck up so bad when they first encounter the creatures, when they first encounter the raptors. Which, if I can take just a second, I love the creature design on the raptors.
I 100% agree with you.
Genius, like, both parts of the life cycle. And, like, I like that those human failings really do come back to bite people in the ass. And I mean, they telegraph the fucking one for Paris the entire goddamn film. I mean, they telegraph it with, like, skywriters. But, you know, like, it was still interesting having that so clearly be, like, measurable as, like, nope, they're fucking up. And it always makes me sad to see Claudia Black go down. But, that's, Shaka, or, it's the chick with black hair who fixes the sand cat, who gets taken out by the giant flock. The actress is Claudia Black.
Okay.
I know her and like her because she was one of the main actresses on Farscape. Yeah, I almost said Fargate, referencing motherfucking...
Fargape.
Oh, God. The porn parody of Farscape. Which I'm sure there is one, considering that fucking show.
You know, there will be.
Oh, yeah, now. And then also, after Farscape ended, it was like one of Sci-Fi Channel's like darlings, and they wanted to give Claudia Black more work. So when they did the giant cast switchover on Stargate SG-1, she became one of the new cast members on Stargate SG-1, which made me really mad, because I was like, well, I love Claudia Black. You literally just shoehorned her and the actor who played Crichton into the show because they're moneymakers. Like, guess you're gonna shake them. And that was painful. You know, okay, I definitely agree with you. I think that Pitch Black is a flawed film. Mm-hmm. And again, because it was made by a small team on a tiny budget, I think a lot of that is understandable. It was a lot of people's, like, first big-ish foray into film. And one of the first big things that Vin Diesel did, I'm pretty sure it's pre-Triple X.
I don't know. I haven't seen Triple X, but Pitch Black was 2000.
Yeah.
And I think Vin Diesel's definitely gotten bigger since then. I mean, we don't need to go into Vin Diesel right now, but...
No. Though, I have always enjoyed Vin Diesel's work. Though, the guy really needs to learn. I don't know if it's just that he feels uncomfortable with it or hasn't done, like, a lot of practice of this, like, on film or what. But, like, he really can't, like... He looks so unnatural when he kisses women in movies. There's been a lot of theorizing that he is, in fact, gay.
Which is funny, because when he's totally, like, chained up early on, like, he's got the blindfold over his eye, he's got a fucking bit in his mouth. I was like, okay, this is like... I don't want to say it's bondage, but it's definitely bondage-esque.
It's a little bit, you know, there's a lot of knife play. The bit thing is actually just purely a character thing, because one of his whole deals is that he is so willing to go there. He kills tons of people with his teeth, because no one expects you to, like, go and bite into somebody's spine to murder them. So he has, like, a ton of knowledge of human anatomy, which is why there's the one thing where he's talking about, like...
Yeah, that area between those vertebrae and...
Yeah, like, I can hit the carotid artery and you're dead. Like... Yeah, which is the whole bit thing. And they didn't... Yeah. They kept everybody very much like these big archetypal characters. And everything is basically like set pieces. There aren't the, like, really meaty scenes. And the only characters who really have arc are, like, as much as I like the Imam, he does not have an arc. As much as I like Minnie Riddick.
Baby Riddick.
Baby Riddick. She doesn't have a fucking arc in this movie.
No. Unless her arc is going from being a boy to being a girl, but that's not really...
She's the same motherfucker.
Yeah, nothing changes other than the fact that everybody besides Riddick now knows that she is indeed a she.
Yeah, which... Yeah. And then... But yeah, Riddick and Fry are the two who actually get, like, plot arcs. And that's part of why I'm frustrated that they killed Fry the way that they killed Fry.
I think John's does a little bit, simply because you know more about his character and motivations.
Yeah, but he has no arc. He's a straight line.
In terms of how you view him as an audience?
Okay, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
Like, he becomes more understandable. And yeah, you're right. He doesn't really change. He is the same guy from point A to point B.
Fucking iota.
But, like, you understand him more.
Yeah.
And you're right. As a character, he does not have an arc. But in terms of the viewing audience...
Yes. And I do like what they do with that, because he goes from this, like, trustworthy, incredible badass to the beginning to this guy that you're just
you're not a cop.
Kill him.
And you're willing to sacrifice people. Well, and
I love the final joke that he loads the shotgun with the heroin shells, the shells that he hides his heroin needles in. And is like, no! It fails on him because the motherfucker's shooting up like right before they do the like great march across the thing. It's just like, you fucking jackass.
Yeah, I don't care if I live anymore. I'm on heroin. Fuck
yeah, basically, like,
no, we're gonna keep going because I can't feel anything. I don't give a shit if you guys die either because fuck you. That's my character.
Yeah,
but going back to the Imam, I really liked it, and I thought it was refreshing that a Muslim character of African descent was such a cornerstone in the film.
Yeah.
And portrayed in a positive light. And I think that's because it's pre-9/11. So those fears weren't as heightened then. But seeing that in a film, especially living post 9/11, where Muslims end up being the butt of a joke, having somebody who is a positive character and so much of a voice of reason throughout the film, I thought was fucking excellent.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that's, I think, again, also, I really like it in the same way that I like the theorizing about potential future orientations of humankind and what cultural movements are dominant that you get in Firefly or in Dune. I love those kinds of things that they build into those worlds. And the expansion of Islam to the stars.
New Mecca.
Yeah. Was, for me, really cool. And the essentially implication that Islam is the dominant religion. Like, the only person who mentions any other type of religious terminology is Riddick when he mockingly calls the Imam father. Which I don't believe is the actual technical translation of Imam. 1 second. We have access to literally the sum of all human knowledge, because I have a smartphone now. Okay, Google. What is the translation of the Arabic word imam? No, not Islam.
The Arabic term Islam itself is usually...
This is wordless. Wordless.
Technology has failed me this day.
Nope. I'm like, they got the sum of human knowledge here. Yeah, I mean, it's basically a priest, but which was the whole point of Riddick's mockery. Imama of Shia doctrine. Okay, so it doesn't actually... Okay, it comes from the word for divine knowledge and religious authority, which is Isma. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, now I have an explanation.
It was one of those things that, like, somebody who leads the prayer at, a mosque and everything, and I was cool with it in that light. I also thought it could have been a little bit blasphemous, referring to the lineage of who leads the faith and what happened after, Muhammad went away, and I was like, all right, you could be reading too much into this. I'm just going to take it as face value.
No, which would be interesting because it is specifically, it is a term used in both Sunni and Shia practice, but it is primarily a Sunni term. Yeah, so it's an interesting... Yeah.
I mean, it was not something that the film was focusing on, and I chose not to focus on it for that reason. Like, there's literally no reason to dissect that, other than the very nature of, alright, is Riddick getting cutty with him? What all's going on here? I absolutely love the whole theological thing throughout, in terms of everybody else being against the Muslims that are atheists for the most part. Well, except for Riddick, who's like, no, I believe in God, I fucking hate him.
Yeah.
But, like, at the same time, he does not break, which I fucking love. Like, even when Riddick comes back, he's like, there's my God.
Yeah. Like, asshole. You had to talk all this shit a minute ago. And yeah, no, there's like the one moment where he questions God when the last kid gets taken, and he falls down and he's like, "You're shitting me, I failed. God damn it." And
He bends hard, but he does not truly break.
Yeah.
And I fucking love that.
Yeah.
And I love the divergent viewpoints that don't ruin the story.
Yeah.
I think that you can have theological elements in your story, and they can be contradicting, and sometimes, unfortunately, that takes over the meat of whatever you're doing.
Agreed.
I thought it was a great through line. I thought it was well done. It was balanced, and it didn't ruin everything else that was going on.
100% agreement.
And I also like the way that it played into Riddick's character, because he is playful and cheeky and slippery son of... Like, he fucks with people consistently throughout the film.
Yeah.
And he fucks with people in the other fucking Riddick film that I've seen, whatever it is. I think it's just Riddick.
Yeah, I think the third one was just called Riddick.
Because, we're digressing here from, logical start point, which would have been Riddick or Chronicles of Riddick.
Yes.
But no, we had to start with Pitch Black.
Well, and that's, again, I honestly kind of like that as an introduction of the character. Because what they did with the later ones got so... I am way more compelled by the story of this man who was born in insane adversity and has lived to be a true survivor, hardened by the miseries of this, like, dystopian sci-fi future that doesn't give a shit about its people. Turning him into what he is, getting the shine job in, like, the absolute dark prison, which is, like, a big part of that world. Butcher's Bay is, I think, what it's called. The whole thing where he's talking about his childhood, where he's talking about, like, the different, like, experiences that he's gone through. And they replace that with him being the last of an ancient alien race called the Furians, who have so much spirit.
I can tell you're impassioned by that.
Yeah, that really fucking moved me. Way more than the story of the man becoming a truly hard ass through adversity in this dystopian sci-fi future. And, like, you get to, like, the second film, there's, like, a whole scene where, like, the little girl from the first movie, like, shows up. Like, Riddick gets thrown back in jail again, and she's in the jail, and is like, "You fucking lied to me, homie. You completely lied to me. I went to Butcher's Bay. There is no doctor there who can do that surgery. There has never been a doctor there who can do that surgery. You're full of shit." And yeah, at the end it's revealed that he's a Furian, and then he takes over the Necron Empire. Nerd. And I was like, you just gutted the fucking character. Like,
that interplay, though, is great. I'm sorry for, like, the basically death of what they'd already kind of established as a background, but having somebody who idolizes somebody come to face with that idol and realize that idol is full of shit and fuck them over, I think is fucking excellent.
See, that could have been a cool play, but they didn't need to gut
Riddick's
entire history to
completely.
Do it. Like, if it had been a different backstory about how he got his eyes, at whatever point. I mean, the whole point is the guy's lived an incredibly crazy life and nobody knows all of it. There's that great line where he was like, you don't know me at all. Like, the fuck are you talking about, lady? Like, come on, meow. And
we've dealt with each other for maybe 2 days.
Oh, it's longer. I figure at that point it's been a couple of weeks that they're on the surface.
Small scope of time in both of their lives.
Yeah, essentially. So just as, like, a quick comparison, how would you compare these two films, Etienne?
Well, Animal House is 3 minutes shorter and more of a fun ride.
It's like 20 minutes shorter.
It's like 3. Animal House is like 148 and Riddick's like 151.
Not the copy I just watched.
Oh.
Like, the copy of Riddick I just watched was 152, and the copy of Animal House I just watched was 134.
I don't know how that happened, but okay.
It was like one on Netflix.
Whatever.
I don't know. I'm super confused. But yeah.
I enjoyed both of them. I mean, it's very much apples and fucking durian. Not because I think that either of these films is durian. I'm just saying they're that fucking different. They're not even apples and oranges.
I would entirely call Riddick durian.
Okay.
Yeah, there's things about it that smell like a rotten corpse. But if you actually eat it, it's fucking tapioca pudding and it's delicious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess my first comparison can stand even more. I think they're both worth watching, but for vastly different reasons.
Agreed.
And again, you want to talk about something being constructed as a film, even though it's a comedy, I think Animal House has much better construction to it.
Word. I very much agree with that, but I would say that the reason I would say that it has better construction is because it understands that it doesn't need to have intricate construction, and so it doesn't try to. It is loose as a film, and it understands that it needed to be loose to allow the kind of sprawling hijinks-ish madness that it is. And that's part of what's interesting to me, is that you have what attempts to be like a really, really precise, like genre specific, like small story, which is Pitch Black. And then you have this other movie that was far less specific and was far less trying to be a thing, and understood that it couldn't try to be a thing, and ended up being this like pivotal thing that like changed comedy films. And comparing the two of these things that have all these weird specific related like weird thematic pieces, but are such radically different executions for such radically different ends, was really interesting. And I watched them back to back. I did Pitch Black and then I did Animal House. And I was like, it's
the exact order I did them in too.
Yeah, it was a really interesting double feature to be like, huh. Okay. And yeah, I don't know. I liked having those really different palette counterpoints.
To me, though, like, back to your point, if you accomplish everything that you've set out to accomplish, you've succeeded. If you
agreement.
Try and accomplish something more and you fail, to some extent you failed.
Yes, and it cocks up the film. And I would say that Animal House did not attempt anything that it failed to do, and was exactly what it was trying to be, which is why at the end of the day, I was like, I really like this film. Like, I liked 95% of it, and that's so very rare for me with films. And Riddick, I like about 85%. And the 85% that I like, or Pitch Black, the 85% that I like, I fucking love. And the 15% that I dislike, I fucking hate. And I'm like, this is, fuck. Because, yeah, it does fall into that trap of it tries to do more than they are actually able to do. Like, the showdown between Riddick and the Raptor is one of those moments where I was like, I love the idea, I love the fact that this showdown happened one-on-one, but the way that you did this, you did it that way because it was the cheapest way to do it on your budget, and that should have been different. Because there's no way, with the amount of strength that the Raptors are shown to have, Riddick could have just gone, booyah! And just kind of won the wrestling match with the Thing for like a straight minute.
I like that showdown in terms of like stylistic choices. I thought it was a lot better done than some of the other stylistic choices that they chose to have earlier in that film. The way that they handled that specifically, I thought was great in terms of the stylistic choice and working within limitation. Because there were other points where they were not working within limitation. Again, they were trying to do more and couldn't because of budget and various other reasons. So for that reason, I liked it. It frustrates me that there's that point, and then there's the point later on, at the very end, where you're being inconsistent one way or another. Either Riddick has the ability to, like, fucking be equal, take these guys down, slightly overpower them, or he doesn't. And they're within such short a span that it frustrates me.
Yeah. That one actually didn't so much, because his whole strategy dealing with the one was, I'm right in front of it, I'm fighting it strength for strength, it can't deploy the tail. That's a strategy that, like, if we acknowledge that Riddick is somehow able to be preternaturally strong enough to actually go toe-to-toe with one of these things in terms of, like, upper body strength, then that's a realistic way to win a fight one-on-one with one of them. However, if you're fighting multiples, you can't lock up the tail. So him going down to the, like, 5 of them that roll on him at that point, I didn't have as big of a problem with. Because it is a squad of them. It's not just the one. And it's just the one when he wins the showdown.
It's not just that. It's the series of things. It's how easily he's taken them out before. I could have dealt with the squad thing had he either just straight gone down to it, or had he not come back and then like been rescued, and then Fry gets taken and he does nothing. Like it's those three things that
in a row that didn't ring right.
And like again, it's inconsistencies and like which way did you want to play it? You didn't really pick anyone. You just kind of went both ways at the same time.
And I feel like the best there would have been he manages to crawl away after taking out like 2 or 3.
Right.
Like wins the fight with 2 or 3, takes mass injuries. Fry like helps carry him away, and he's like injured at that point, but there's still like zero effort to try and do anything. He
fucking flies the plane at the end.
Yeah.
Like he's not incapped.
Yeah, he's not incapped, and that was a problem. And if then at that point, like she'd gotten him onto the thing, and like doors closing, and she gets jacked at that point and pulled off, and he's just like fuck. And tries to go for her, and then at this point, Riddick is weak enough that the imam and the kid are like, she's being torn to pieces right there. Then you have a different, stronger endpoint. Or even the endpoint of like getting her onto the thing, and her getting instantly pulled away, and you seeing her just get torn. Mm-hmm. Then that would have worked. But literally, you just see her get skewered and pulled, and people survive that earlier in the film.
Yeah, and again, that's why like, there's the first 50 minutes, hour that's shaky for me. There's parts that I really like and parts that I really don't like. Then there's that part that I think that's excellent.
Just genius, the whole thing in the night.
That end is really what I have a problem with, because there's the inconsistencies, there's the cheesy lines. Like, again,
I do have to ask, which of the cheesy lines got to you? Because the cheesy lines in that, for the most part, don't bug me. There's like a couple that come out of John's mouth that I want to slap him.
It's literally just the end when Riddick's screaming at the sky. I'm just like, that's not...
Okay, yeah, no, that was and
was again, really it goes back to,
done.
like, the character inconsistencies that are in those last few minutes. Like,
yeah.
His whole thing, again, beyond testing people to see if they're loyal, is he comes back, or rather, Fry comes back to him when he's on the fucking plane setting everything up, and he's like, you've got good survival skills. I admire that in a woman. Like, about him truly not only testing the people to see if they're loyal, but testing the caliber of the individuals in general.
Yes. Are you someone who knows what's up?
And then that point being the whole like ride or die point for him, and that being different from how he is, and dealing with that on an animalistic nature in terms of survival things. Like, even if you would have at that point been like, well, she's got fucked, she's taken, my survival skills are kicking in, I'm getting out. Again, that's like 2 seconds of dialogue, but it explains more for the character in that instant.
Yeah.
If they would have set it up to be like a survival thing. Which, again, he's what he's all about, but that's not how it's portrayed, because he's screaming at the sky.
Yeah. Yeah. You make a very good point. And that ending there is a letdown and is poorly executed.
I will say, compared to other sci-fi survival horror-ish things that I've seen, I like the ending a little bit more in some ways, and it also fucked with me in a little bit of certain ways, because generally there's like one motherfucker who makes it out, and everybody else is fucking dead. Like Ripley from fucking Alien is a key example of that.
Happens, and I was like, every movie.
Yes, all the characters that I really cared about in this film are making it out on one ship. Fuck yes, this never happens. And then to have Fry taken, and the way that she's taken at the end, I was just like,
yeah, like it would have worked to take Fry at the end if they
handled it differently. Yeah. And that's all all I was saying. I may not have stated it as
no,
clearly
you absolutely did.
I think I got to it in the end, but it was a longer winded way of getting to it, and I'm apologetic for that.
No, not at all, not at all.
It's not you I have to apologize to, Patrick.
Yeah, that's right.
It's our audience.
But the audience, it's okay. They're disembodied robots, and I can pretend they don't exist until this ends, and I'll be like, why, God, Patrick? Why did you say those things?
We all live in Westworld, Patrick. That's a fact, and I know you haven't seen that show, but you don't need to worry about it. They have.
In a Western world. Yeah, I mean...
Eastern boys and Western girls.
What?
Don't worry about it.
For sure. But no, I think that we did. I think that both of these are... I think both of these are solid. So go out and watch them, people. Go out and watch them.
Oh, hell no! I ain't getting out of bed today.